first of all, again, thank you for coming to the first session of our 5-part communications webinar series. So a very good afternoon / good evening to our customers and participants joining us from the US, Canada, and also a very good morning, of course, to our customers and participants joining us live from Australia, New Zealand, and across the Asia Pacific region. Welcome. A little bit before we get into the content of today's webinar, which is talking about NationBuilder as an integrated platform and why we are the Swiss Army of communications. A brief introduction about myself. My name is Ella Nugraha. I am NationBuilder's lead enterprise account manager, and I am based in Melbourne, Australia, which is why we're having it at this time. And just to let you all know as well, my colleague Annette, who is based in the US, is also present, and she will be monitoring the chat. So as the presentation goes on, if you have any questions that pop up into your head, please feel free to add them in the Q&A, and we will address them at the end of the session. So please don't hesitate. Any questions at all that you have, please just pop them in. All right, so just to start off, what the agenda is today. So as I mentioned, this is only the first session of a 5-part comms webinar series. So we're going to be talking about focusing on the integrated nature of NationBuilder. And so today's conversation will be quite high level, mainly focusing on what are the communication features in NationBuilder, going through some high-level key trends as well, and what that means in terms of how we use our platform and leverage all of the features together. So the content will be around 20 minutes. I will try my best to keep it at that, and we will save time at the end, around 10 minutes for Q&A. Okay, so let's get things started. So for those of you who are NationBuilder veterans, you would already know this, but if you are new to NationBuilder, this is basically what our communications suite looks like. So we always talk about NationBuilder as an integrated platform. So you know that you're able to collect people's data and what you would call like the CRM section of NationBuilder. But because we are an integrated platform, it means that you can also immediately access people's use the data that people have provided, whether it's their first name, email address, and send them emails through our emails emails feature, and also workflows. What we call workflows here just refers to email automations. In NationBuilder, you can also do texting. This is a native feature. I will flag that this is currently a native feature for the US only, and I believe the UK. If you are wanting to text from other countries, you can do so by using other apps and integrations. And we'll also talk about ActionButton. So some of you might already be familiar with ActionButton. That image on the bottom left corner, that is what an action button could look like. We'll get into that a little bit later. So when it comes to emails and building emails, first and foremost, it is my absolute pleasure and privilege to present to everyone our new email builder. So we have a new email builder. It looks different to the one that we had previously. This was just launched, I think it was just a couple of weeks ago, and that you can correct me there if I'm wrong, to the public for general use. And essentially, what makes this the main difference about this email builder to the old one is that it's a simple drag and drop function. This was a feature that was probably one of the most requested from our longtime customers, and it is finally here, and we're so happy to be able to share this with you and share this with all of our NationBuilder customers. So it just means that you can personalize your email format with so much more ease now. You simply, as you can see in the video here, all you have to do is select the content block that you like. So it could be just a content block just with text. It could be a combination of a text and an image, or two texts consisting of two columns, for example. You drag and drop, and then you can edit the content immediately with no trouble at all. So even if you don't have like coding skills, it's not a problem. It's so simple to use. And it means that it'll make it easier for your teams as well. When you're happy with the kind of format that you want for your emails or your newsletters, for example, you can actually save those, pardon me, as a custom themes and make them available for your team to use later. So it means that you can duplicate all of these things, so you don't have to start the work from scratch. So happy to present this as our latest, most exciting feature, making it easier for you to build and send your emails and also your workflows. So talking about sending emails, let's talk a little bit about some of the key trends, current trends that we are seeing in the emailing world. So here are some interesting statistics or trends that we're seeing. So when it comes to sending emails, the email lists we're seeing in the nonprofit organizations, they ended last year with 2% less subscribers to what they initially had. So this is an interesting trend because when COVID hit in 2020 and following that in 2021, email lists actually grew by quite a lot because suddenly everyone was at home. We had to really increase our digital activity, and a lot of campaigning was done by emails. A lot of fundraising was done by emails. But we're seeing at the end of the last year, as we're going back into the offices, as we've already received a lot of emails, that lists are kind of declining and having less subscribers. We're also seeing that a lot of organizations or campaigns have been practicing sending out more emails. But when it comes to fundraising, revenues from emails have actually declined. And one of the reasons is that donors, for example, during that period of peak sending emails, people were being overly targeted, particularly for fundraising emails. And it showed that a lot of donors were actually getting frustrated by being bombarded with so many emails and decided rather not to donate, to avoid getting more messages. And some of the donors had suggestions that in a survey that was conducted, some donors or supporters suggested that in terms of improving digital engagement, organizations and campaigns should be engaging with customers, not just about asking for money, but also to inform their supporters, their constituents about issues that they actually care about. So basically, people want organizations to send them emails more about information and not just to ask for money. Another key trend that we're seeing is that it's becoming increasingly difficult to track open rates, especially with Apple Main's privacy policy. It's hard to detect, like, is this a human who opened an email or is it a machine? Somewhat in the similar pool, Google has also stopped exempting campaign emails from automated spam detection. We are seeing this trend in Australia and New Zealand as well, with local telecommunications companies who have been a bit more, implemented more restrictions as to what constitutes as spam. And sometimes it can be, they can specify in their spam policy that campaign or political campaign emails are actually categorized as spam. So it's important for us to know what's happening in our local areas with local telecommunication companies and their policies. So moving on. So what does this mean, essentially? It means that at the moment, people are receiving more emails than ever, and it is becoming more important that organizations or campaigns target your audience, really target your audience, and maintain a consistent communication with your supporters. Now, in NationBuilder, there are features that we can use to really target our audience, whether it's based on issues that they're interested about, past activities, say petition, taking an action for a petition, or becoming a volunteer. Some of these, and these are some of the features that we can use to really segment our audience. So tags, of course, every action page allows you to tag supporters who have taken action, so you can identify who's doing what, who's interested in what. Lists as well allows you to split list, batch updates based on those tags, or even batch remove. And of course, filters. We have hundreds of criteria in the filters. And the great thing about filters is that it's dynamic, and you can really segment your audience into areas that are quite specific and customize your communication with those segments of people in a much more personal way. Other things that you can leverage in NationBuilder in terms of maintaining consistent communication is workflows. So in your control panel, this would be called workflows. What we mean again by that is email automations. So you can set up like a series of a welcome email for new supporters. So when they sign up on a sign up page as a supporter, then you can set up, say, 3 or 5 emails and that have wait of like a couple of days in between, and you can email them about issues that you think matter to them. And so this is just a way of making sure that you're sending emails to supporters in a much more consistent way, and it's not just about asking for money and donations and fundraising. The great thing about workflows as well, and something that has been recently developed, is that there are different sources in which you can trigger an email automation. So that could be a list, an action page, and also ActionButton. And speaking of ActionButton, so if you don't know what ActionButton is, please head on over to actionbutton.org for more information. But in a nutshell, what does an action button do and look like? Well, it looks like the image here on the right-hand side. Action button, you can create, well, buttons. And it's a great way to engage your supporters. So for example, you can engage your supporters by creating a quiz, a poll, a sentiment poll, or like a dial poll. And if these are buttons that you can post on your web pages, you can also share this on your social media. And also you can create a sequence so that once people engage with those buttons, you can also create a second button that is a sign up button, a petition, opinion, custom email, target, or contact your lawmakers, as you can see there in the image. And these are buttons that actually collect information of your supporters. The great thing about this is that it's fully integrated with NationBuilder, meaning that when people input their first name, last name, email address, they will automatically come into your nation, and they will also automatically be tagged. That way you can identify who came from which button, and you can also email them for future engagement. The great thing about an action button, like I said before, is that it can also be connected, it can also trigger to enroll an automation. So these are the buttons with the workflow symbol next to them that can be used for that. So after all of this, there's a lot to process there in terms of like the features. But the main benefit of having an integrated communications platform is that it helps you to connect the dots between all of the features in the platform. So what does that mean? And what can that look like? So we have, let's just recap a little bit there. So we have the emails, we have the workflows, the email automations, we have texting as part of the comms, and we have action button. So how can we create a communications practice in NationBuilder where we can actually really leverage everything at the same time? So here's an example of how you could do it and connect the dots. So here's just a really simple example about combining action button with NationBuilder. You can share your action button, for example, here on the left-hand side on social media. People take action and they will have a tag. And then you can track that data in your platform, in the control panel, and then you can filter them and enroll them in an automation, as you can see on the right-hand side. So this is what it could look like in terms of like setting up those filters and tags. You can create what we call a sequence button. So what we saw earlier, where you have like a poll or a quiz, and then it leads into a button where you can collect people's data. So it could be a sign up, a petition, and then people are automatically tagged, and then you can filter based on tags, whether it's the tags on ActionButton, or it can be combined with other criteria in the filters and ask them for, and you can determine the next steps of engagement. So from there, you can ask them to become a volunteer. You can ask them for donations. You can send an email blast about specific issues and so on. This is another example as well of how you can connect the dots between action pages, ActionButton, and also workflows. So for example, you might have people coming, like for example, new supporters coming into your nation or landing into your website from different places. So people might come into contact with your organization from a sign-up page. It could be from a donation page, a petition page. It could also be from an action button that you've shared on social media. Now, for example, if you are creating pages and action buttons that are specifically targeted towards new supporters, and you want to enroll them in a workflow, an email automation, you don't actually have to create multiple workflows for every single page and every single action button. So for example, if you wanted to create a welcome series, you can just like create an action page, a sign up page, and a sign up button for action button, and have people coming in from there to be enrolled in just one workflow or one email automation. And then from there, they will automatically get email 1, email 2, email 3, and so on and so forth. So this is just another way, another level, another layer of how to really combine these different features together. Another way to do this is when we are sending emails or text, and we can say to our, or we can ask our supporters, click on this button to write to this MP about X issue. You can send them to an action button, for example, where you have determined a specific person, public figure who you want people to email and contact and push for legislation or push against legislation, for example. And once they take action through that, they will also be enrolled in an automation. And you can automatically, from there, follow up with email 1 based on the workflow that they are enrolled in. So this can be a combination from the email or text. So basically, whoops, let me just go back to my slides. So the basic learning from this is that our communication suite, all of the features that we have, they're already powerful when they're being used individually. So just when you use an email, just when you use texting, or just when you use one like workflows or action buttons, if you use them separately, that's fine. They're already great. They are already powerful, but they become much more powerful when these features are used together. And that's why that is the main benefit of having an integrated platform, is that you are managing all of these things in the one place. The other thing that we need to understand is that because there are so many things that we can do, the best way to get the most value from all of these features is always to plan ahead. Planning ahead could be, it doesn't have to be super complicated. It could be an Excel spreadsheet that you share with your team, and you create a communications plan as to where, what feature you want to leverage, who are the people that you want to target, and how do you plan on engaging with them in the future. So always plan ahead. And looks like I'm just about on time. This is just the beginning. As I mentioned, this is only the first session of a 5-part series of a comms webinar. Please make sure that you join our other sessions coming up in the next few weeks. The next one, we'll talk more specifically about how to build emails that drive action. That will be led by my colleague, Lucy. Webinar number 3, the elevating the supporter experience with email automations. Webinar number 4, we'll be talking about texting best practices, so going in depth about that. And of course, webinar number 5, you should not miss. It's about making sure that your emails actually land in people's inboxes. So remember what we said earlier, a lot of people are getting a lot of emails at the moment. So making sure that it lands in inboxes is absolutely crucial to a successful digital campaign.